you. Look, I'm glad you're here. It's a little bit of an off Sunday because it is a holiday weekend. So I wanted to do something a little different, okay? Grab your flyer. There's going to be some verses. If you brought your Bible, set it next to you. We're going to use it. We're going to get there. If you like to read the scriptures on your iPhone, go ahead and set that next to you. Get that ready. We'll go there in just a minute. But I want to do something different. I want to have a different conversation today. I hope it's fun. I hope it's encouraging. You're going to get way too many slides today. In fact, this is how many slides you're getting today. I have my own clicker controller today, okay? So we're going to go through a bunch of stuff. Don't feel like you've got to write it all down, okay? I will put it out there this week when we put the video online. So now that you know that, strap in and let's have a conversation. Did you know, okay, now this may be new to some of you, did you know that when you get married, your personality issues start to come out? Did you know this? Somebody didn't tell me about this. My wife just amened over here more loudly than I would like her to. I'm going to preach to this side this morning. Did you know that when you get married, your personality issues come out, whether you want them to or not? If you didn't know that, then you either are not married or you have never been around a married couple because it just bleeds out of them sometimes, maybe even in ways you don't want it to. When my wife and I got married, my little lovely bride, we discovered something. Don't get ahead of me. All of those sweet, loving, caring conversations we'd had for 18 months leading up to the wedding day went somewhere. I don't know where, but they went somewhere. And I came up with this terminology. I said, I just call it misunderstandings, right? Now, that's the term I can use in front of you. That's the nice term, right? That's the best name for it. We just started having misunderstandings. And somehow we began to experience these intense conversations about whether or not I was right. See, you're getting ahead of me again. And they would get really heated, especially because I was right. And we would get into it back and forth. And here's the thing. Here's what kept coming out with us is this is the conversation we've been having over and over. I said this, but you heard that. Now, we've been doing this for 30 years. As I wrote that in my notes this week, I actually made a note out to the side and said, this is a time where you can do one of a couple things. If you just discovered that my wife and I are having this conversation for 30 years, you may want to, A, walk out now, right? Like, because who's listening to this guy? Or just B, get ready to reaffirm everything I say. Seriously, this is a hard thing relating to people, not just a spouse. If you're not married, you don't have to be married to know this, right? If you're single, communication is a hard thing. It seems like my wife and I miss each other on a weekly basis. Do you ever do that with people around you? Here's a story. During the week, we both work from home. So our week will fill up and we'll often make plans, right? We keep our calendars in sync. We still go places together. We're married, so it's cheaper too, less gas. So we will say, okay, we're going to meet somebody for dinner, middle of the week. What should we do? Let's leave the house at 5 o'clock. We agree on the time. We sit across from each other. I look her in the eye, my lovely bride. 5 o'clock p.m., right? We make sure it's p.m., although she's just discovering 5 a.m. these days recently. But we make sure we're on the same page, 5 p.m. What do you think happens Wednesday at 5 p.m.? I will be, now see, we're really, so you do understand. I will be in the car. I will have backed the car out of the garage. I will have the engine on so it's cooling down so she doesn't have to sit in a hot car. And at 5:01, there's no wife. And at 5:02, there's no wife. And at 5:03, and at 5:04, and 5:05. Now, at this point, now seriously, if you are married, you're about to feel my pain right here. I now have other options in front of me, right? I could go back inside to investigate what's going on and what's taking so long. If you think that's the right answer, you're not married. You're not married. Because there's a danger in going back inside, right? Or I could just sit there and wait and make sure that I'm still smiling when she comes out. What happened Well, look, we're both intelligent. We both have college degrees. We both, in fact, have phones with clocks on them. We both agreed to the same time. We both actually speak the same language. There's no language barrier here. What happened? It seems like there was very little room for error in this conversation. Can you relate? I said this, you heard that. George Bernard Shaw made this statement. He said the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it is taking place. Now, that's a profound statement until you start to really think about it, and then it'll mess you up, because George Bernard Shaw died in 1950. Think about this for a second. He had at his disposal communication. He had face-to-face. We still have that. He had the ability to pick up a phone, although it was bolted to a wall or something, but he had the ability to call somebody, and he had snail mail, which you just get junk mail in today. 1950. Think about what we have today. Think about all the ways we have that we can communicate poorly or miscommunicate or miss each other. And men, can I tell you something? Let's just throw it out there. We're going to be at the top of the list because sometimes we just aren't very clear. Found a guy this week. He sent a sweet text to his lovely bride. She's pregnant. He said, "How's the morning sickness going?" She says, "Not too bad today. I can't even believe we're having another baby." He quickly says, "I'm leaving you." She says, "What?" He says, "Now. I'm leaving work now. I'm not leaving you." She says, "Now I'm really going to throw up." It's hard sometimes to communicate. And the more ways we have to communicate, the more venues we have today, I think it gets even harder. Why? Because it's not just saying things. That's not just communication, right? You got to hear as well. I want to take you on a little bit of a journey this morning. This conversation is coming from a book that came out last year. If you know me, if you've been around me, I'm a huge proponent of personality inventories. Not because, listen to me, if you're like, "Oh, I hate those things," I do too. I do too. But they're great tools sometimes to help us sit, question, ask things about ourselves, and then also ask things about other people. Here's the book. It's called I Said This, you heard that. It's by a gal who has been 25 years in the communication business. Okay? It's a temperament study. If you've ever heard about this, I'm going to take you shortly into it. But basically, you see the pretty colors on the screen. We're going to leave it at the color level today, okay? She thinks, she proposes, she talks about in this book kind of a two-part system to solving some communication issues in our lives. The first is simply this, that we got to know ourselves and the people around us better. We got to understand how we're wired a little better. All right? We need to give the effort, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us. The second thing is she's convinced there's a commitment you need to make. Now, we're going to get there in just a second, but she's convinced there's a commitment you need to make once you begin to understand each other. Let me give you a little bit of history. This whole study came and started back before the days of Jesus. Seriously. A guy named Hippocrates. Some of you have heard of him, right? He's the father of early medicine. He started observing, without all of the surveys, without computers, without crunching numbers, he started observing that people seem to have these ways that they're hardwired. And he came up with the temperaments. Now, the temperaments are, as some will argue that they're good, they're bad. I just want to throw this out there for a second, then we're going to drop them off the screen. These temperaments look like this. He talked about the sanguine temperament, the choleric, the melancholics, and the phlegmatics. And the funniest thing about all of this is not long after him, some more scientists come along and they say, "Hey, you know what? I think the temperaments, the hardwiring in you, I think they come from your body fluids." Now, seriously, this is what they said. So if you were a choleric, they'd say that body fluid for a choleric is red, right? So that's the color they use. Melancholics, they would say that fluid for a melancholic is actually dark bile in the body. So I don't know why they used blue, but they said it's a darker black bile. That was their proposition. I don't know where they got that. Maybe it made sense at the time. All I can tell you is this. What he proposed, let's drop the words off and let's just talk about it. What he proposed is that there are at least 4 categories that people are hardwired towards. In those categories, what he's talking about is it's your temperament. It's the thing that is going to always be with you. Kind of like your eye color or your fingerprint. It makes you unique. Nobody else is going to be the exact same as you, but we can get these big categories, And we can say, well, in general, there's people who lean this direction in their hardwiring. You say, what about hardwiring? What are you talking about? Think about it this way. Anybody in your family want to be on stage this morning? Anybody in your family? See, if somebody wants to be in the spotlight, that's kind of hardwired into a lot of people. That's just who they are. You ever have a kid that you walk them someplace, the mall or something, and what do? They just crawl up on the mannequin platform in the stores, and they just start dancing around? Some people are just wired that way. Some of you have those kids. I can see it in your eyes. Some people, and maybe this is you, you're a little more hardwired this way. You think, you know what? I'll take a desk in a quiet office, and that's where I'll work, and I'll get things done, right? It's just that thing in you that is the beginning of your personality, that outward expression of all that you are. That's how you think about temperament, okay? It's just this hardwiring piece. Now, these colors are going to be the framework of everything we talk about this morning. Your temperament, listen, is the why behind your personality. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. We joke in my house. If my wife wants me to emote more, she wants to know how I'm feeling, she'll tell me, stop telling me you're German and you don't want to talk about it. I thought it was a good excuse. She doesn't like it, right? So she wants me to emote more. And so we talk about my feelings sometimes. It's not an excuse for bad behavior, your temperament. It is something, though, that you've got to understand. How are you wired? How has God put you together? At the core of who you are, how has He put you together? Because if you don't know how you're wired, then it doesn't help your communication, right? Your communication will get in the way. You don't know how you should communicate. And by the way, if you communicate just out of your temperament, but you're married to a different temperament, you're going to miss each other a lot of times, right? So how do we do that? Let's explore it just a little bit. I want you to raise your hand if you're an introvert. If you'd say, I think I'm an introvert, raise your hand for a second. See, I love this because introverts are going, I don't want to raise my hand anyway. Like, what are you doing to me? Sorry, I'm an extrovert. I'm just having some fun, right? You know the funny thing about introverts? I always thought for a lot of years that if you were introverted or extroverted, that it meant that you were like a people person or you were not a people person. That's really not what that means. For most of us, here's what it means. It's the way we process information. Introverts are deeply, deeply thoughtful people. Introverts want to process internally. They want to have a good answer. They don't spew junk. When an introvert finally speaks, you better listen because they've been pondering it for a while. Okay, you're going to see in just a second when we talk about people versus task, introvert versus extrovert, you can actually be an introvert and like and enjoy people. Now, you may not like the same size crowds that an extrovert would like, but it has nothing to do with whether or not you're a people person. Everybody can be a people person. It's the way you process. Extroverts, here's me, okay, and you already get this, right? Extroverts process outwardly. Like if you ever sit with me in a staff meeting, whoever works with me on a staff has to realize I'm going to say 90% of my words that day we may never do. Like I'm just thinking about things. Don't you want to dream with me? Let me invite you over and let's talk about some stuff. I'm going to throw it against the wall. Some of it's going to stick, and eventually we'll process and figure out where to go. Anybody like panic when I say that? If you do, you're probably an introvert. You're going, I would never want to work with you. That's crazy. But I do that. I kind of process outwardly. I'm always talking a lot, right? So think about it for a second. Just in the margin of your flyer there. Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Now, second question. Are you more people-oriented or task-oriented? What that means is if you're people-oriented, you're going to want to spend time building relationships. That's where you're really going to get energized in life. If you're more task-oriented, it doesn't mean that you don't like people. Okay, don't think exclusive here, but it does mean that you like to get things done. You like to achieve something and move something forward, right? Again, that's me. If you haven't figured it out, I'm red, okay? That's just how I'm wired. If you don't know this about yourself, though, you might miss each other when you try to communicate. If I am red, and by the way, take it by faith, my wife is blue, we automatically have some issues with each other. We have to learn to communicate. And by the way, when we were first married, nobody told us this. So we just decided to fight it out. And again, I was always right. So she followed me this far, right? 30 years in. Give her applause, but don't. So which are you? You got your color? If you're yellow, here's what you are. You tend to be associated with people and fun all the time. Those are your words. Like that's your language. People and fun are your language. I'm going to tell you in just a second. I'm going to talk you through our staff real quickly in just a second. We had fun this week with all of this, talking about each other. But if you're this color, we have one person on our staff that is decidedly this color. And man, it's just always about the fun, right? Here are the words that they're going to gravitate towards. Fun, loving, outgoing, optimistic, life of the party. You know this person because they're the people you want at your house if you're going to have a party. They're going to make sure everything is fun, right? If you're in the red category, that's me, you tend to speak the language of power and control. I am very comfortable with those words. I think those are great words. My wife thinks I should be reined in a little bit, okay? Power and control. Here's kind of the taglines, the characteristics you'll see with me. Born leader, get things done, visionary, decision maker. By the way, those are great words, but all of this comes with the dark side. So with a visionary type of leader, one of the things I have to come to grips with is I'll run people over, right? I'm leaning towards the task end of things. We're going to talk more about this in a second. But with each one of these categories, there's these great words of who you are, right? How God put you together, how He wired you. But there's also this dark, this shadow side, this place you can drift if you're not aware of your personality, your temperament. If you're in the blue corner, this is my wife, perfection and order. If you don't believe me, when you leave here, in a second, walk out, turn to the right, go over here to the corner, open the children's closet, and you're going to discover my wife is perfection and order. Some of you are going, wait a minute, I thought she was a people person. I thought she'd be higher. She is a people person, but her perfection and order has to reign the day, okay? A couple of years ago, my kids were making their bed when they were little. They took the bottom fitted sheets, okay, which let's be honest, she's very correct in this. The fitted sheet only fits one way. If you try to put it crossways, it's not going to fit. My kids were putting it crossways, and she had to come in, and she was, as a good mother would do, she says, no, kids, here's what you need to do. Look at how it goes on the bed, and let's fit it. To this day, my kids talk about the right way to put a sheet on a bed. Perfection and order. Maybe that's you. If it is, here are the words that will describe you. You're organized, you're detail-oriented, you're accurate, you're a deep thinker. These are great qualities. The problem is my personality, my temperament sometimes will ignore some of these people. Why? Because I just think I'm right all the time. It's a sickness. Go ahead, you can tell me about it. Third category, the green, the calm and the harmonious. Who's in the green corner? Raise your hand if you think you're a green person. Okay, see, here's the problem. There are not enough of you, right? We need more of you. The calm and the harmonious person, and it may be that you don't want to raise your hand, but these are relaxed, likable, peaceable, low-stress people. And by low stress, it doesn't always mean that there's no stress in their world. It's just this is what they seek. This is what they hunger for, they thirst for. They want to be the kind of people that there's just no stress, and we're gonna all get along, and we're gonna move the same direction, and it's gonna be good, right? So this is the summary here. These are the languages that each one of these categories will tend to speak. Okay, again, tend. Okay, you may say, well, I don't know if that's totally me. It's okay. It's just a tool. We're just talking. You may not be 100% that, but the yellow people are going to always be about people and fun. That's their language. The red, me, we're going to be about power and control. When I graduated seminary, my lovely bride put me through seminary. She paid for me to go to seminary, and I finished. I had my master's, 122 hours. It was like taking another bachelor's. I was so excited. And I turned to her, and I wanted to repay the favor with power and control. I said, honey, now it's time. You go back to school, and when you finish, you're going to be principal of the school. My wife's a teacher by trade. You're going to be principal. She looked at me, and she goes, why would you ever think I'd want to be principal? Because it's the language of power and control. Don't you want to be in charge? No. I thought she was sick. I thought, oh my gosh, there's something wrong. My poor wife, she's depressed. I didn't know, not everybody wanted to be in control. That was new to me. Power and control, perfection and order. Man, she runs a tight ship though. And she knows how to keep things moving. Calm, green. Oops, I went too far. You're in the green category. It's all about calm and harmony. And trust me, we need more people like you today. All right, last caution. All continuums. What do I mean? If there are two of us in this room that are red, we're not exactly the same person, right? Why? Because there's all kinds of other things in our lives. There's where you went to school, where I went to school, where I grew up. You grew up on the East Coast, I grew up on the West Coast. Whatever, not really, but it's all these things that'll help shape the expression of that temperament. So we're never going to be the same. But we do have some core things about us that tend to come out and be the places we go to. Now, I want to go to the Bible for a minute. I want to look at a passage by Paul from Ephesians. I love Paul's writings. Paul is so good at trying to take Christianity and challenge me to think about not just what Jesus has done, but then how does it work its way out. So when he wrote the book of Ephesians, he was in prison and he was dealing with this, that everybody, this new Christian community, was trying to figure out, what does it look like to be a Christian in this world today? How do I walk it out? So Ephesians has the first half. There were no chapters when he first wrote it, but chapters 1 through 3 today now. Those 3 chapters deal with this, our relationship to God. Paul's going to lay out some theology. He's going to talk about what it means to have faith in Christ. It's going to be all directed to this relationship right here. He starts with our transformation of following Jesus. After that, the last half of the book, he's going to write to the Ephesians, because of this, because of your relationship with Christ, because of what you've discovered about who he is, because you've discovered what he's done for you, how he's pursued you. And by the way, I get that maybe you haven't gotten there just yet, right? Or if you have, maybe you have friends or even a spouse that hasn't. Our prayer is always that you feel very comfortable coming in and having these conversations. We want everybody to have this relationship first. But this relationship, here's how you know when you're going to cross that line, because this relationship starts to change this relationship. It starts to go horizontal. If that's not happening, listen, if you don't do it in this order, you know what happens? You wear yourself out trying to satisfy everybody. You wear yourself out trying to obey all the rules. And then go to God next. Paul says you got to go to God first. When that transformation happens, then here's what's going to happen. The horizontal relationships are going to change. So we go to Ephesians 4. We get in verse 1. We're going to kind of bust through a couple of these verses. And he says this. He goes, I, therefore, Paul, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called. He says, I want you, because of this, because of your vertical relationship with God, because of what you discovered about him, his grace that he's offered you in your life, forgiveness, transformation. You came to him with a wreck of a life, and he said, I love you anyway, and it changed your heart in that instant. Because of this, he goes, I want you to do this differently. And he uses a few descriptors. He says in verse 2, with all humility and gentleness, patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit of the bond of peace. He says, since you've encountered Jesus, I want you to trust him and to have these relationships be transformed. Here's what I want you to see. That following God, he desires that you flip the script of your life. He's going to desire that you flip the script of your life. Why do I say that? Because in our world today, this relationship, this horizontal relationship, really is all about me. When I walk with people, okay, the way the world says walk with people, it's going to be all about what I can get from you. It's going to be all about what I benefit from you. Yeah, it's okay if you benefit from me too, but the driving core behind relationships in the world we live in is all about me. It's all about me. I continue to say this over and over, and I know probably sound like a broken record, but I cringe at the level of interaction on social media these days, because if you crawl on to Snapchat, if you crawl on to Instagram, where everybody is now, you're going to get a picture of a life nobody can live up to. We all snap only the pretty moments of our lives. And so when I'm living for me, I'm trying to recreate everything I'm seeing in the culture around me, and it's killing me. We're creating a generation of the loneliest people the earth's ever seen. Paul says, God wants you to flip the script. He wants you to do something different. Once you meet Him, everything this way is going to change. And let's talk about what that can look like. That I don't want you to use, don't utilize your temperament only for your own pursuit in life, right? God wants to utilize your temperament for His purposes so that you'll pursue His purposes. Verse 25. Therefore, having put away the falsehoods, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. He says, look, you've learned the truth. You've come into this vertical relationship with God. Now you understand a different truth. Now let's drop it this way. Let's walk it out. Here he starts to open up. He says, be angry and do not sin. So, in other words, you can get angry, but there's a way to have some anger in you, but still not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. He's giving some great principles here about how to direct it, right? Keep going. Verse 27, and give no opportunity to the devil. What? You start getting angry, what happens? Satan gets a hold of your heart, man, he just pushes that anger over the cliff. You ever do that? You get on social media for just a second, and something stirs you and gets you mad, and all of a sudden, an hour and a half later, you're still sitting there pounding on the keys, right? You lose an opportunity. He says, don't do that. Verse 28, let the thief no longer steal. Now look how he's talking very practical here. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. I love that. He says, look, the Christian community, as people came to faith and this community started to grow, you know what was happening? Christians would start to lock arms and they would start to take care of the needs of everybody in that community. Well, other people started to notice that. So they would come try to be a part of a community, and what would happen? Just to get their needs met. Paul says, don't be that way. Don't be that way. Get active. Let this relationship change this, and now be active. Be a part of this community. Okay, 29. We're going to camp out here. And then let no corrupting talk. If you have the NIV, it's going to say this: let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. I love that phrase, unwholesome, corrupting, though when you study it, here's what it's going to say. Don't say anything that causes decay. Don't say anything that causes somebody to not be whole. Don't say anything that causes somebody to rot from the inside out. You know what I'm talking about. Somebody says something and it kind of gets you stirred up and you stew on it, and a day is gone and a week is gone and you're still mad, or a year is gone. And then you're in counseling trying to figure out why you're so angry all the time. Paul says, don't talk like, because of this. Because what you've learned about the love of God for you, now let's follow Him. Let's do what He does. Let's love others. And here's what. Let's, no matter what they do, no matter how they act, let's make sure that we don't make them unwhole in our speech. Let's make sure we don't let them decay. Let's don't create death in their life. I kept thinking last night all over again. I keep thinking about these people that are picking up weapons and just doing the unthinkable. And my God, I'm just keep going, what would have happened 5 years ago if the right person had said hi to that person? What would have happened 5 weeks ago if somebody had paid attention just a little? And maybe they did. I'm not saying that we all messed up and we all missed out, but I'm just wondering out loud, what happens if this isn't right? Right? That relationship with God isn't right. We're not going to slow down long enough to make sure this is working. I'm just asking myself what would happen. I love this verse because if you were a kid and ever went to church, or maybe you didn't go to church, but you had a grandmother or somebody and they would read the Bible, and anybody ever catch the kind of the rebuke? Don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. Don't let any corrupting talk. And what they were really saying was, you need to not cuss. Right? Don't use those 4-letter words. God doesn't want you to use those 4-letter words, and that's a good rule. I get it. I know why we said it that way, but it's so much more than that. It's not about the 4-letter word. It's about the word that cuts, that hurts, that wounds. My mom's got a great story about me kind of spouting off my first four-letter word in front of the pastor when I was a little guy, and then the whole family revamped their language after that because I was apparently a real student of language. And you know, you can tell a kid, we all tell our kids if they're little, if you have kids, we tell them don't cuss. You know, we tell them the rules, don't steal, right? Love others. But see, that's the rule. And when you're little, and your mind doesn't process it all, it's okay to have just the rule. But as you grow and that temperament starts to grow in you, that way you express yourself starts to grow, we need to have more than the rule, right? That rule is a great guide when we're little, but as we get older, we got to get to the heart of the matter. What's the heart of the matter? Because this has changed my life. Now this needs to change. And whether or not I say a bad word when I hit my thumb, anybody ever done that? You hit your thumb and you know, you say the thing you're not supposed to say. Whether or not I really ever say that is not the point of the passage. The point of the passage is don't cut people. Don't murder people with your words. Flip the script. Flip the script. Our culture operates this way. I said this, you heard that. But if you want to start operating out of your temperament, if you want to start paying attention so that you can talk in a different way, then we need to flip the script. And now because of how you hear, I need to say it this way. That's the script we need to flip. Because you're going to hear things a certain way, I need to learn to say things better. I'll say it this way. Now, how do we do that? I'm going to give you 3 keys. Listen, these are not 3 full steps. These are things for you to think about, okay? These are not 3 points. Nail this to the wall. You're going to have this mastered. I hate those kind of sermons. But I do have 3 conversations for you, 3 key conversations that will help you communicate better. The first is you have to realize this. Your temperament determines the words you speak. Your temperament, your God-given wiring is going to determine the words you most naturally are going to want to speak. If you're in the yellow corner, you're most naturally going to want to speak words of fun and excitement. You're going to want to be the life of the party, right? Anybody know Pastor David? Pastor David around here, David Blaylock, he is this guy. If we get together and David's in the meeting, we're going to have fun. David's out this weekend. He and his wife took her dad to a family party in Arkansas. I guarantee you, all the way to Arkansas and back, they're finding the fun places to stop. David's going to pull through. We're going to have a party somewhere. David's going to talk to the people at the little roadside stops. That's just David. He talks to everybody, right? And he loves it. Now, that's all fun and good, but I'm a red guy. I'm a hurry up, do what I say kind of guy. I don't mean to be bossy, but look, we got to get some things done. We got to achieve some things, and we want to go there. And if we want to go there, we're not stopping at all those roadside attractions because you're just taking time out of my day, right? Go on vacation with me. I actually have learned to vacation really well. I'm pretty proud about that, but my red still comes out. We get up a couple of weeks ago, we were on family vacation, and my wife is blue, right? Her natural bend is to think this way, is it safe? Why? Because she wants perfection and order. And so for my wife, she wants to get up and she wants her day to have this natural flow. So she's going to make her lemon water. Then she's going to grab her Bible and she's going to grab her journal and she's going to put on something a little heavier because I keep it at 65 in the house. And she's going to go find her little spot where she likes to sit. Kind of same place every day. Don't mess with her world. I'm on vacation. We have to start vacating. Like, we got to have fun. We got to get there. So when I get up, I got to get down to the beach. I got to get the tent set up. I got to get my exercise in. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I'm driving her nuts. She's like, I'm on vacation too. And I'm like, yes, and soon it'll start. When you follow me and we get to the beach, then your vacation will start. Won't you be so happy? She's like, no, I want to sit here and I want to talk to God for a few. We're talking to the God on the beach. He's there. Trust me. It's a better view. We're just wired. It's how we do things. It's not that we're trying to stab at each other. It just comes out. I didn't even realize this until this week. I'm like, I thought I was vacationing really well. I thought, oh, I'm getting up and I'm having the day relaxed, but I'm not for the first hour because I'm getting all the tasks accomplished so I can sit in my chair, right? And it just, my personality, my temperament just comes out. Yesterday, my lovely bride walks through the house. She says, aren't you going to watch the Tech game? I went to Texas Tech. Go Raiders. She said, aren't you going to watch the Tech game? I'm a little disgruntled, okay? And by the way, my red temperament, if I don't think they're going to win, if there's no hope for the season, I'm done, okay? We got to move on. I got to find somebody better, okay? You're all learning my sicknesses, aren't you? She says, you're going to watch the game? I go, okay, fine, I'll watch the game. I click it over. I didn't know it was on TV. Before long, she's like, will you please stop yelling at the TV? See, she wants order in the house. She wants things to flow. And I'm screaming. Why? Because they're making bad decisions. She's like, they're up by 31 points. I said, I don't care. They're going to lose the rest of the year if we don't get it changed around. Can you relate? Can you relate? Green, whatever. I'm flexible. Rob, just playing up here. Rob's pretty high on the green. We like that because our staff needed some green. Tanya, David's wife, incredibly high on the green. I was texting with her this week about her temperament, and she said, look, just so you know, it's not always stress-free in my life, but she goes, I crave stress-free life. I said, that's your temperament. That's how you know you're green. Your temperament determines the words you speak. You've got to watch it. If you're not aware of it, things will come out of you, and you're thinking, why can't I get control of this thing? Because you're just not aware of how you're wired. Now that I'm more aware next year, I'm going to get up earlier so I can get all my chores done, right? And then my wife won't have to yell at me, right? I got a solution. Get it done. Second key here, second thing to think about, your temperament is going to determine the words you most naturally hear as well. Your temperament, that hardwiring in you, when somebody speaks to you, you ever say something to somebody and you think, how did they not hear what I'm telling them? Perhaps your temperament words didn't register with their temperament wiring, right? Here's the words that these temperaments are. I put them all at once. Again, I'll put these out this week so you don't have to copy them all down. But if you're a yellow temperament, right, it's all about people and fun. You're looking for approval, acceptance, attention, affection. That's just how you're wired. We got David on stage this morning. He'd tell you, he said, that's one of my struggles is that sometimes I want you to like me, to accept me more than I should. But he goes, that's my language. It's the thing I have to be aware of about myself. The red category, the power and control, we're all about loyalty, sense of control, appreciation, credit for work. Now, again, they're expressed differently, right? My wife will ask me a lot. She'll say, you know, how do you get appreciation from people after you preach on Sundays? And she'll say, you know, do people come and tell you, hey, that was a great message? I'm like, no, they never do. So we're good there. It's okay. You can feel bad about it. I said, you know what? You don't have to tell me that, so you're off the hook. You don't have to say that necessarily to me. You know when I feel appreciated? It's when somebody says halfway through the week, they shoot me an email, they said, hey, I was thinking about this, or I did this because of what you said on Sunday. Right? I love that. So for me, it's weird, but that's how I need some kind of appreciation feedback in my life. It just comes different than maybe some of the rest of you might like it, right? Blue, perfection and order. These are the people that look for safety. They're very sensitive people. They want support. They want space and silence. Hence, me yelling at the TV screen is not good. The green category, calm and harmonious. These are people that are looking for words of harmony. They want to feel worth, lack of stress. They want to be respected. I think that's woven into them because a lot of times somebody that's all about harmony and calm, I think those people get disrespected a lot. I think you just kind of get walked over because you're so quiet sometimes, right? So these are the things that you're going to most naturally going to hear. You're going to hear and be looking for those kinds of words in your life. If you're not hearing them, if you're not getting them, then you're gonna have this tension in your world. When I talk to my wife, I have to remember we've been having some calendar meetings lately. I just have to know that when we have a calendar meeting, she knows, she looks at me and she goes, yeah, you're not even in this, are you? Like my eyes roll back in my head, and I'm like, can you just put it on my calendar for me? Like, but I know that sitting there and having the conversation is good for her. It's healthy for her because she craves that kind of order. And oh, by the way, it helps the family run smoothly. Did you know that? I love how most of the time we marry somebody who's just so totally opposite of us. Third little key is simply this. Every word you use is a word you can choose. See, it's not that you don't have a choice. Yes, you may lean towards saying things a certain way. Yes, you may lean towards having to hear things a certain way, but you still have a choice in the words that you use. This is this right here. Because of my relationship with Christ, I can choose. I can. I don't have to default and punt to my temperament all the time, right? He will work through me in that way. We can have those conversations. And that's what we should be pushing ourselves to do. To continue to get to know our family, our spouses, our kids. Think about if you started operating with your kid more out of their temperament than simply trying to bend them to your rules of the house. You have to think about how they're wired. I heard a mother say this week, she's got a very red daughter, and she said she continually wants to pick her own clothes. And so the mother made a deal with her. Look, if you'll pick your clothes that I approve of, right? So in other words, I would need you to check in with me a little bit here. If you'll pick them, then I'll let you help pick your brother's clothes too. See what she's doing? She's starting to talk with her based on her temperament because she knows that little girl wants to be in charge. So work with her. Teach her how to use it. Teach her to get to know herself a little bit more, right? As you do this, here's what's going to happen. We're going to discover with each other that we all have strengths and weaknesses. And I'm going to go ahead and put these up here. And you can read through these. But let me just highlight something. I'm picking on my wife and I today. Obviously, in the red category, I recognize my strengths. I recognize that I like to make decisions, make them quick, get out in front of things, march the troops up the hill. I also recognize that I am very opinionated. Now, my wife said this week, she asked me about a conversation I had, and I said, oh, I shared my opinion. And I said it just like that. She goes, I'm surprised. I said, what? She was being serious. I said, why would you be surprised? She goes, because you kind of tempered yourself. You're very careful about some of your conversations, and I didn't think you were going to go there with this person. And I said, nope, it was time we went there. And I shared my opinion. That's who I am, most naturally. Now, I do have to make sure that when I share, I don't run over people, right? That I don't start to become insensitive to the people around me, because I can't. My lovely bride, she is incredibly detailed. She will tell you that she does not like paying the bills and balancing the checkbook. But here's the thing we all know. She does not like the way I balance the checkbook. Plus or minus $20, $50. I mean, if we can cover it. My wife gets to the end, and if it doesn't balance to the penny, we're going to do it again. And that's that drive in her. Isn't that great? I love it. So if you need your help with your checkbook, go see my wife. She's good at it, right? Now, she'll tell you, too, that this weakness part is that she does require structure, but, man, she likes to be in control, right? She likes to have, when I say control, order around things. She loves to make sure that things are working properly, which means sometimes she can be hard to please. And she knows that. So we have to learn to work together, right? Pick your category. Where's your strengths? Those are great things, but what I say, every side's got a shadow side, so sometimes that dark stuff can come out. So what are we going to do with all this? Let me land this plane as quickly as I can. What do you do with this information? Flip the script. This relationship requires that we learn to sacrifice our temperament a little bit. I'm not saying give it up. I'm not saying bury it. I'm not saying be in abusive relationships. I'm saying this, that really there are times where we need to pause a little bit more. I love how James says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, right? He's very keen, James is, that this is a problem for most of us. If you're a red or a yellow, you talk. Okay, that's what we do. And we talk a lot. And there's reasons sometimes for us to stop talking. Learn to take that pause. Slow down just a minute. Learn to give somebody else that pause. My wife will tell you, it's one of the things I work on. I'll talk over you. I talk over her. It's taken years for her. Hopefully she's not offended by it. It has nothing to do with her. It's that thing in me. But you know what? I need to make sure I'm taming that thing. Right? That this relationship's in check so that I recognize it. And I come around it, and because I don't want her feeling like she's being run over by her husband. Pause. Second, learn to give grace. Learn to give grace. Let's back up to the story. I'm in the car. I'm in the parking lot. The car's started. The car's cooling. Everybody should be happy. It's 5 minutes past when we should have left. If we back up 15 minutes and we start to pay attention to temperament, here's what should have happened. When I walked through the kitchen on my way to the garage, which I'm 10 minutes early anyway, because if you know me, to be early is to be on time. We don't ever be on time. That's late. So to be early is to be on time. I'm going to be 10 minutes early anyway. As I walk through the kitchen, my eye should catch the dirty dishes. Because see, the order side of my wife is you can't leave dishes in the sink if they're dirty. Anybody resonate with that? Anybody want my wife to come over? Right? See, like she will take care of your dirty dishes. She cannot leave that dirty dish in the sink. I don't know why. It's her wiring. I'm like, nobody's coming over. We're locking the house. We got the keys. Nobody's going to see it. I promise. No. That thing in her drives her to want to make sure those dishes are cleaned up, put away. I'm 10 minutes early, and I'm thinking about my wife and what we're about to do. I stop and I put those dishes away. Now, we had to learn, too. When I walked past the dish, it was not a slam on my wife. I was not trying to upset my wife by not putting the dish away. I just didn't always see it. So she's working with me. Now I'm starting to see the dirty dishes, right? There's hope. 30 years, get there. It's just what we have to do. Give grace. Continue to work with each other. Pause. Flip the script. Look, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, He should be writing our script. The culture, should not be writing our script. Well, everybody else, this is how they work through their problems. Everybody else, her husband says go and they go. They just leave immediately. I could do that. It's not going to be healthy for my marriage. And it's not going to be wholesome for my wife. Right? It's going to create death and decay in her. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes she might not walk out with a dish in the sink now. But there's a different effort being put into it. And I'm trying to speak that language that matters to her. Third, what else can we do? Church, we need to celebrate the differences. Journey, I love that you do this. For the most part, we lean into this. I love that about Journey. I told somebody recently, I said, it feels like sometimes we're just a bunch of misfits, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it feels like we're a bunch of people from all kinds of different backgrounds and different experiences, and we're coming together, and we're just learning that it's okay to be that different. It's okay for somebody sitting across the aisle to have different political opinions or views. It's okay for somebody to have come from a totally different background. It's okay to be stuck, actually, in a certain place in life and be trying to figure it out with God. We're getting better at that, but we need to celebrate those differences. God wired you a certain way. I said it this way. We should have unity in our pursuit of Jesus, not uniformity in our pursuit of Jesus, in how our pursuit of Jesus is expressed. Think about it that way. Unity in how we pursue Jesus, that He's the one we should be pursuing, right? This is our focus. This changes everything. But this is what we're unified around, not the expression of our pursuit. Right? It's just going to look different. Your gifts, your wirings that come out of your temperament are just going to look totally different. Not everybody wants to work in a soup kitchen and help the poor that way. It's okay. If that's your ministry, if that's your heart, if that's your passion, that's how it's expressed. It's great. Somebody else may have something different. Celebrate the differences. So pause, give grace, celebrate the differences. Now here's the practical side. I want you to think for just a second. Put your pens down, whatever you're doing. Can you come up with one thing? One thing that you recognize about how God wired you after this morning? Don't say it, just sit there, keep it in your head. What's one thing that you just kind of recognize? Maybe you already knew it. Maybe you know all of this stuff because you've been through all of this. Maybe you work in HR and you just have studied this stuff. I don't know. Maybe you know this. What's one thing that kind of came to mind again this morning? Oh man, that's how I'm wired. That's me. That's just part of who I am. Yeah, it's got a dark side sometimes and I have to watch, but this is me. Now I want you to come up with one thing you recognize from somebody else around you on a weekly basis. Doesn't have to be your spouse. If you're married, it can be. It might be your kids. Maybe it's your coworker. Maybe it's a neighbor. When you're sitting here and we're talking about this, what's one thing that you kind of go, oh, I get why they're wired that way now a little bit more. I thought they were just being rude. I thought they were being cold. I didn't get it. What's one thing you can come up with somebody in your life? Now, church, flip the script. Flip the script. This week, test this. Try it. Because of how you hear, I'm going to say it a different way. It takes time. It does take effort. It takes a relationship with Christ. Anybody can do this, really. But this relationship changes all of our priorities. We don't get to give up on this, church. This is who we are supposed to be. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, He writes our script. We're supposed to follow Him. This is who we are supposed to be. Flip the script. Because of how you hear, I'm going to say it a different way. Let me pray for you.